Hi, this is 100 and 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Today we are looking at VR Regatta. VR Regatta is a sailboat simulator game that allows you to learn the ropes, quite literally and quite virtually, of sailing a small sailboat through the waters. The game provides you with multiple different game modes so that you can up your skills as a sailboat operator throughout this wonderful, peaceful, relaxing, and somewhat frustrating at times experience. In our VR Gear game reviews, we cover as many aspects of the game as possible so that you can make an informed decision before you try or buy one of these VR titles. VR Regatta was a lot of fun to play, and we are excited to go through the review with you today. Let's start the review off by looking at getting up and running with VR Regatta. This game is available on most of the VR stores except for the PSVR store. You'll find this one in the Steam store, the Oculus store, as well as the Viveport Infinity store. You can also buy this on the regular Viveport if you want to buy this title as a standalone. VR Regatta is currently selling for $19.99. We got this one as part of the Viveport Infinity subscription that we have, so we didn't have to go out and buy this one. But if you're a sailboat enthusiast, this might be a title that you'd be interested in spending the money on if you don't have Viveport Infinity. VR Regatta is a sports simulator game that allows you to learn how to sail a small sailboat as you maneuver through different obstacles and chase some mystical stars that will increase the amount of time you have to finish the level. If the idea of this game thrills you, then this game is definitely one that you should try. It was very well executed. The developers did a great job of implementing as much realism as possible into a game that is actually quite difficult to pull off if it's not done right. And so we were very impressed with this sports simulator game, and VR Regatta was a really great experience. You'll play this game from the first-person perspective, and you won't see much more than your hands in the game, but you'll need to see your hands as they are interacting with ropes and steering wheels and other parts of the boat. From your playing perspective, you'll get an up-close look at all the different parts of a sailboat so that you can become familiar with the compass and the sails and the waves as they crash up against the boat. But you won't see much more of yourself other than that. During the tutorial, you'll learn that sitting perpendicular to the front allows you to look forward and backwards easily and control the boat's steering and adjust the sail as necessary. For story and theme, you won't find much of a story in this game, but there is a very strong theme, and you can tell the game developers did a lot of research or are themselves sailboat operators with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge as to how sailboats operate. And it was awesome to sit in the game and experience that from a perspective of not having played in a sailboat or having driven one or ridden in one ever. This game was a really great immersive experience, and the theme was very strong and convincing. The controls for this game were very straightforward. Using the grip buttons or the trigger buttons, you were able to grab and interact with different items in the boat, including the joystick, the steering column, the ropes, as well as the compass, and you could use the joystick on your right hand to teleport around the boat. Although that wasn't something that was actually necessary, we would have probably preferred just having extra long arms or the ability to reach out and impact things that were beyond our reach with some sort of extra force pulling mechanism or force pushing mechanism that you can find in other games, like I Expect You to Die. Overall, the controls, though, were done very well, and it made it easy to interact with the game and focus on gameplay instead of fumbling with awkward controls. The game had simple controls, and we liked that a lot. For music and sound, this game doesn't have much music, although it's there, it's quiet and faint in the background. The audio experience in this game really shines when you just listen to your environment. You can hear the wind rushing by, you can hear the ocean waves crashing out in the open as well as against your boat. And you can hear the nice narration of a male voice who happens to be from Australia. And if you like Australian voices, then you're really going to like the narration in this game. If you like Chris Hemsworth, you're going to like VR Regatta's narration. For player movement, you won't do much moving in this game outside of all of the moving you're doing as a sailboat. The sailboat is what is moving through the game. You'll be driving through the levels or sailing your boat through each one of the levels, collecting stars, avoiding obstacles, and trying to get to the finish line in record time. The interesting thing about this game was that you could teleport around on the sailboat itself, and the sailboat was very small, and so it was kind of confusing why you would need to do that, but you did have to do that because there was no way to reach and interact with things beyond your physical reach or your own wingspan. So teleporting was necessary, although we wish that there was another way for you to interact with things beyond your reach, besides having to teleport around a very small area. But the player movement in the game mostly focused on moving your way through the level. Once you oriented yourself properly in the boat, sat in a spot that was giving you the most access to the front and to the back of the boat, you didn't have to do much moving around on the boat. And so you're moving through the levels on a sailboat, and that's how player movement was executed in VR Regatta. For motion sickness, it was a very interesting experience here because riding on a small sailboat can cause motion sickness in the real world, even though you're not wearing a VR headset, and even though you can see where the boat is rocking or where the waves are crashing, you can still get motion sick on a real sailboat. And so the developers of this game had a really big task and a really big problem to solve to make sure that motion sickness was minimized. What they did here was actually pretty impressive. The boat doesn't rock as much as a real sailboat would rock. Points for that. And the boat acts as a stabilizing element so that you can refer to it while the rest of the level is moving. Similar to games where you're in a sitting or standing position and the world moves around you, the sailboat helped you have a solid point of reference because it was not also rocking. So some motion sickness, but only to the amount that you would get from probably sailing in a real boat out in the open water. So it's kind of a mixed bag here. You'll have to try this one out for yourself to see if it has a bigger impact on you than it did on us. But we found that the game was pretty mild when it came to motion sickness, when we thought going into it, it would be a lot worse than it actually was. For environment and immersion, this game did an absolutely outstanding job. We felt like we were out in the open water. We felt like the scenes and the graphics were very realistic and convincing, and some of the most breathtaking parts of the game were the sunsets and the color of the sky when you looked up at it. This game is not a brand new game, and so it's even more impressive that a couple years ago when this game originally debuted, they were able to take advantage of the graphics in a way that scales up to some of the latest headsets' capabilities. We did this game on the Valve Index, and the graphics in that game are fantastic, and this game measured up to it and exceeded our expectations and what we thought we would see once we jumped into the game. So the environment and immersion, fantastic visuals. The audio, as we said earlier, was very good. It was very calming, and it was very convincing. So we loved being in this game, and we'll probably find ourselves in this game in the future. All right, so let's look at the overall scorecard for VR Regatta, starting with theme and story. For theme and story, we're giving this game an 8 out of 10. That is a great score. The story is not present, but the theme is very strong. And we learned so much more about sailing a boat than we ever thought possible from a game. This game will be very attractive to people who are familiar with sailing and who would like to get into VR, or for people that are in VR and would like to explore sailboats. Great for both crowds. And so theme and story, an 8 out of 10. The controls in this game were very straightforward, very easy to master, and they were perfect for this type of gameplay. We're giving the controls in this game an 8 out of 10. For music and sound, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. That's a little above average, and we think that the game has a lot of potential in the area of providing some sort of music or some sort of additional audio that helps you feel more in the game for racing. This game did a great job with sound effects for being on a boat and being out in the open water, the wind and the waves, and the operating of the boat. All of these were convincing audio experiences, but we'd love to see more in terms of gameplay, racing, and music audio for this specific game. So a 6 out of 10 for music and sound. For player movement, we're giving this game an 8 out of 10. There's a lot of things that you need to do to succeed in moving around this game because you're sailing a boat. And you're able to move around the boat by teleportation, which is not ideal, so it's not a perfect score. But the game did a great job at helping you get up and running with learning the controls, learning the ropes, learning the rudder, learning the sails, so that you could move about the levels successfully. So player movement, an 8 out of 10. For motion sickness, we're giving this game a 7 out of 10. We did not think we'd be giving this game that high of a score, but we were very impressed with what the game developers did to reduce the amount of motion sickness that you'd be exposed to while playing this game. You are on a sailboat, you are in VR, and you would think that the combination of those two things would make you extremely motion sick. But we came out of this game and we weren't. So high marks, 7 out of 10 for motion sickness. For environment and immersion, we're giving this game a very high score of a 9 out of 10. A near perfect environment when you put a sailboat experience and a sailboat racing game inside of VR. VR Regatta environment was one that we wish we could just go chill on the boat and hang out with some friends. It was that good. So a 9 out of 10 for environment and immersion. And for the final score, we're giving VR Regatta a great score of 7.6 out of 10. We loved being in this game. There was a lot to learn, and it was fun once you started to master it. The narration and the guidance given to you by the tutorial, and as you get into gameplay, were really helpful and really calming. We highly recommend this game, and you can get it on the Steam Store, the Oculus Store, Viveport, and Viveport Infinity. This has been 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you can be notified tomorrow when we release another VR game review. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.